Today we're going to go over a question from the UCAT's abstract reasoning section, and it is a complete the series question, and we're going to go over two main methods to complete it. The first is a more long, convoluted method, where we actually figure out all the rules going on in this pattern, and the second is a much more quick and maybe more logical way of answering the questions, because at the end of the day, within the UCAT, it doesn't ask you to write down what pattern is going on. What it asks you to do is just pick A, B, C, or D. So the first thing we can see that is going on is that these arrows are shifting. We can see that in the second box, this arrow here in the third box moves over here. And in the third box, this white arrow here moves to this position here in the fourth box. So I'm noting down that the first rule we can see is that each colored arrow rotates 120 degrees each box in the series. Next, we can look at the direction of the arrows. If we focus on the first box, we can see that the white arrow is pointing upwards, and then it points in a diagonal direction, and then it points horizontally, and then diagonally again. And as we can see that after each box in the series, the arrow gets rotated by 45 degrees. The white arrow, that is. And a similar pattern can be seen with the black and stripe arrows. If we focus in on the black arrow, we can see that it rotates 90 degrees each turn. And then with the striped one, it's a little bit more difficult to see, but it's got a rotation of about 225 degrees after each series within the box. Now, that's the more convoluted way of getting through this question, actually working out that each arrow rotates by and figuring out by its given angle. A much more quicker way of figuring out which answer A, B, C, or D is correct is to first consider the first point we made, that the actual position within the box that the arrow is holding is moved by 120 degrees in each step in the box. That's probably the more easy, more visually accessible point regarding these 4 points that we can tell by just looking at the boxes straight away. And by appreciating the first hint, the first piece of information we wrote down, we can rule out boxes A and boxes D. That's because we know that in the fourth box, we have a striped arrow on the bottom position, and therefore following the first rule, we must know that it lies there. So we can instantly rule out A and D as only B and C have a striped arrow in the position we want it to be in. And then next, once we've narrowed it down to B and C, all we need is just one of these rules. So I'm going to knock out number 3 and number 4, as in my opinion, number 2 was the easiest to work out. And by just using rule number 2, we can determine that the correct answer is B, because in box 4, after another 45 degree rotation, we get a vertical arrow that points down. And as we can see in C, there's just been too big of a rotation. What is that? It's a 90 degree rotation, I think, to get to that point. So we know that C must be wrong as well. And that leaves B. So I think what I tried to show is that instead of getting all the rules to this series, 1, 2, 3, and 4, all you need is probably the first 2, and that saves you a lot of time, and it also gives you the sufficient amount of information needed to answer the question correctly. So I hope that helped. And here is the answer rationale.